So we're back out this morning in a wonderful Lake District to welcome in the day, and as you can see behind me, I'm sure, and just a beautiful scene over Haweswater Reservoir, a scene that I've wanted to photograph for years, if I'm being honest with you. Admittedly, I've been out of action for almost a week. I've had terrible toothache and I've been completely housebound, and yeah, it's not been good. So this is my first time out since what would have been Sunday's video where we had that snow flurry. And yeah, it's been quite difficult, to be honest, but I'm just delighted to be back out with my camera, creating these videos for YouTube, and oh, what a scene to be welcomed back to. Now, again, like so many of my adventures recently, I've come lakeside because the wind forecast was really, really low, so I'm hoping for some nice reflections. We haven't got as many reflections as I was hoping for, looking at there at the minute, but I'm probably being a little bit greedy and fussy, because that is absolutely glorious. It looks like we're getting a bit of a sunrise as well. You can probably see some of the clouds in the background. So with that being said, I'm going to crack on and try and get into position, because that's a little bit of a bonus if we can capture a little bit of colour in the sky as well. So over the past week or so, here in, let's say, the west coast of Britain, the weather has been terrible. So in many ways, like I said in the intro, that I've been sort of housebound, I guess I've been quite lucky. It's been horrendous, just super high winds, you know, rain, cloudy, zero light. Now, over the next 2 days, there's sort of a window of opportunity where there's just zero wind like we've got today, pretty much. You know, we've got light blue skies, and just good opportunity for a bit of pleasant landscape photography. So I'm going to try and make the most of it. You know, I'm out here today, and then tomorrow I've actually got a fairly big adventure plan that I don't want to talk about, but that will be Sunday's video. So make sure you tune in for that. I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to enjoy that. I cannot wait myself. But yeah, today's adventure, in all honesty, I didn't really plan on getting set up so early, but we just had that beautiful pre-sunrise glow that you often get in the sky, you know, when you get them beautiful reds and oranges up there. And I did want to go a little bit higher up, you know, behind you guys, get a bit more of an elevation looking down towards Haweswater, but like I say, I really wanted to make the most of that sky. So it's a really simple shot. I don't need to talk about the composition too much. 16 to 35 millimeter lens on the front, and I'm shooting at 16 mil, so pretty wide, and it is a bit of a snapshot. I'm just capturing that scene, you know. We've got the rig there, which is that gorgeous woodland peninsula jitting out. That's probably the only thing I'd say about the composition. I didn't want that central in the frame. I've had it a little bit more towards the left hand third of the frame, and I just think it suits it a lot better. I just didn't think it looked nice bang center in the frame. And yeah, I managed to get it in one shot because the sun hadn't quite risen, so you know, the light was fairly even. ISO 100, f11 and 1/16 of a second. So yeah, little bit of a snapshot. I'd have probably preferred a few more reflections if I was being fussy, like I said in the intro, but that's probably just asking for too much. One thing I like, up back there towards High Street, up them fells, we've got this sort of ridge line of snow, which was completely unexpected, and I think it just adds a little bit of an extra dimension to the image as well. It's something that I really like. You can probably see there now, it's just starting to catch. The sun must be rising. The sun's rising behind you guys. It's sort of a southeasterly direction this time of year. So I'm going to take a few shots of this light that's kind of hitting the peaks up there now. And yeah, might get a couple of images out of this. One with the pre-sunrise glow, and then maybe one where the lights just started to hit them ridges up there. But yeah, lovely way to start the morning. In 1929, Haweswater Dam was constructed after permission was granted to build the reservoir. The construction meant that 2 villages within the Mardale Valley here would be flooded and their populations evicted. During long dry spells of weather here, the villages can actually reappear and you can even walk around amongst the remains. Okay, so my initial plan was to keep heading up the trail. Just, you know, get higher up the side of this hillside here, but I don't really see the point. You know, I got that shot there just before sunrise, and if I keep going up that way, I want to photograph back towards Haweswater, I'm pretty much going to be getting the same shot, just, you know, from a little bit of a higher elevation, and you know, the light's going to be harsher. So I don't really see the need, and in all honesty, it just kind of bores me a little bit. Of course, there might be tons of other things to photograph up that way, but something about it just doesn't feel right. So I've changed my mind somewhat, and I'm coming back down the fell and actually back down to the roadside past where I've parked in the Red Beast, and I've checked out the OS maps, and a little bit further northward there's actually another track or footpath that comes back up this very hillside, but about 10 minutes further down. So I think if anything, you know, that's going to give us a different perspective of Haweswater and the Rig and High Street and these fells in the background, which if we want to photograph that, it's just going to give us a little bit of a different angle, you know. So I don't know, it just feels right. So I'm going to head over that way now, and even though it's only 10 minutes away, it kind of just feels like I'm off to explore a little bit of a new area. So we'll see what we find over there. So I should probably apologise in advance to you guys here, because I've once again changed my mind. I think it's actually just, you know, the reality of landscape photography on some days, especially for someone like myself who's quite indecisive at the best of times. But yeah, I came down that fell there, and then I was headed up to the other footpath like I said I was going to do, and I just kind of thought, you know what's the point? I'm going to go 5 minutes that way to then kind of turn right and go back up pretty much the same hill that I took that first image on. And yeah, alright, I was going to get a little bit of a different angle looking back towards Haweswater, and there was a chance of finding something different up there, but I don't know, it just didn't really feel like there was any point to it. So I decided against it, and I'm actually just on the roadside here, shooting roadside, which is something that I never do. The Red Beast is just there. It's actually quite liberating. But I was looking back towards Haweswater as I was walking down the road, and this sort of scene here just really caught my eye. I don't really know what it was about it that I liked, but it was all kind of automated. You know, I got the camera out, the tripod set up, I got the long lens on, and I've ended up taking a panorama, so I wanted to stop and explain it to you guys. But, you know, I think it's going to be all right. It's definitely not going to be a world beater, any sort of world beater image. You know, I'm not really expecting that today for me. It's just really nice to be out with my camera again. And, you know, it's going to be pleasant. That's something I always say. So, like I say, shooting with the long lens, and I'm taking a pano, but I'm only zoomed in at 55mm. So I'm not super zoomed in, but this is something that I want to be doing a little bit more of, you know, especially when you're in mountainous scenes. Using the long lens and taking panos, I think it's something that you can get a really, really nice effect from. And you can, obviously with a long lens, you can really, really zone in on what it is that you want to photograph, but at the same time still doing a panorama. So it's almost like you're getting the best of both worlds in terms of a wide angle effect, in the sense that you're getting a lot in the frame, but you're getting the compression effect and the zoning in effect, let's call it, of the long lens, whereby you're only capturing what you want to capture. And I really, really like that about a long lens pano, let's call it. So it's only about four, maybe 5 shots from right to left. And on the very right hand side, I'm capturing a little bit of this oak tree. And then on the very left hand side, there's a smaller, what I think is an oak tree as well. And that's going to really help to frame the image on the left and right hand side. I think that's going to work. But there's this small island within Haweswater itself. It's called Wood Howe, and that's what really caught my eye. And that's kind of going to be my foreground element for this panorama. On the The sort of right hand side of the frame as well, right off in the background, we've got Kidsty Pike up there, which is quite a prominent sort of cone shaped peak, which is going to be really, really nice. It's going to be a nice contrast between that and the island itself. It's creating a really nice balance, I think, as well. And as we move from right to left, we're capturing that beautiful sort of high street range, if you want to call it that, in the background, where we've got that gorgeous snow line up on the ridge there. Really is a beautiful sort of background scene in general, and the sky's not particularly interesting, if I'm being honest, but I'm not really bothered about that. So yeah, as we move leftward, we've got some nice reflections in the lake, not perfect, but they are adding a little bit to the image. And then on the left hand side of the frame, as sort of high street, and I think it's called Rough Crag, kind of comes downwards, we're getting the rig again, which is that woodland peninsula like we got in that first image, which I really like. And then right on the left hand side of the frame is going to be the rig, but then that other oak tree as well, which I quite like, balanced with the other oak tree on the right hand side as well. I balanced out my tripod best that I possibly could, just to give myself the greatest opportunity to make sure that everything stitches together properly in post-production. I've had a few nightmares recently where it's just been very difficult to stitch them together because I didn't take the time out on the field to make sure everything was nice and level. It really is important. So I've done that. Settings are the same all the way, to make sure, again, that it stitches together properly. F11 ISO 100 and 1/50th of a second, and like I say, that's the same for each of them 4 or 5 images. So like I say, not a world beater, but something quite pleasant, something a little bit different, and something that I want to be doing more often with the long lens. So it's always a pleasure to be out first thing in the morning with my camera, and I think I'm slowly starting to realise that it's my favourite time to be out, doing landscape photography. I think not necessarily at sunrise, just mornings. I find them really, really pleasant, especially when it's still, like it has been today, and you get some nice light. I just don't think it can be beaten. I absolutely love it. There seems to be a lot of benefits to coming out first thing with your camera. Of course, always a pleasure to be out in the Lake District, and apologies, a little bit of a shorter video this week, but that's because I'm gearing up for this big adventure, and I think I mentioned earlier that that adventure for me is tomorrow. So I'm heading up this evening. It's a big drive for me. That's probably a little bit of a hint as to where I'm going. Probably not actually, because it could be anywhere. It doesn't really make any sense. But either way, I'm really excited for it, and I feel fairly confident you guys are going to enjoy the adventure as well. So be sure to tune in on Sunday. On top of that, I just wanted to say a quick thank you for the words of encouragement that I received to last Sunday's video as well. That really does mean the world. So thank you guys so much for the support, and I shall see you on Sunday for that big adventure. Out.